Today we're taking a look at the RD2000 Manager layout for Midi Designer Pro 2. MDP2 is arranged into banks and tabs, but for ease of getting around this layout, there is an index page that takes you directly to any function. At the top of each tab you will find an index button that actually takes you back to that page. Continuing to look at the Mixer tab on the right, which brings together many of the important program settings in a single page. You'll also find at the top of most pages a load button and then a preset button which allows you to store and recall settings on that page outside the RD2000. So you could have a favorite Mixer setting and apply it to many programs independently of the program setting. So we'll hit the button to load the settings. You'll see it bringing in, and we have what is essentially the standard default program for the RD2000 shows up. The buttons across the top are our zone internal, external controls, and they work like you would expect. You can just select internal, external, and for some reason on this item and a couple others, the RD2000 display can be a little slow updating at times. We actually can select a different mode, both, which allows us to use the same zone on internal and external at the same time. And if the display is slow, you just recycle a button and the display will catch up. Down here, let's put those back to the normal way we see them. Down here we have our USB audio controls, which work the same way. USB audio either can be in or out, and you can enable both, but you also then choose which the USB slider controls. So you'll see the display updating as we change that. Once again, that display sometimes can be slow in updating. Continuing down the page, you will see we have pan, delay, reverb, sends for each of the zones. Our ModFX enable switches for each of the 4 zones, tremolo, the normal inverse ModFX routing, our main sub control for the 8 zones, and then our external MIDI transmit channel select for the external zones. Continuing on through this bank, you will see we have an program EQ tab. Once again, we'll load it, bring in what the settings are in it. We can enable program equalization. We have reverb. Now we'll introduce a new control here. Here we can select the type of reverb, Hall 2, and then once again load the settings to see what they are and then modify them as we want. Same thing continues for delay. You choose the type, load the settings. Delay actually covers 2 pages, and we have a compressor here. Now let's go back and choose. On the left-hand page here, you see we have a tone select. This allows direct access to any of the 1441 RD2000 tones. The top panel has a group selector, so it selects the group of the tone, modern E-piano, and then within that group below, you select the individual tone you want, and it brings right back up. This includes all of the EXP categories. You can jump straight to those as well. And if you recall an EXP that you don't have loaded, the display will just show no media. On the right-hand side, we have our program select. Similar, it lets you jump straight to a particular bank and then choose the program within that bank. This has the default RD2000 program names loaded in it, and you can then edit them individually or group in a spreadsheet to bring in your own names. And actually this version here does have my program names loaded. Continuing on through this bank, we have a rhythms tab here. I like to say the rhythms in the RD2000 has 201 rhythm patterns, and they're sort of trapped in there. They're not particularly useful, but at least with this one, you can play with them a little bit and see what's going on. If you're interested, there is another layout that lets you play more with the rhythms, maybe sort of Ableton light, but they're still sort of trapped in there, and they don't have a whole lot of use. that I can tell. So let's go back to where this all began. I started this layout because I wanted a better way to control the RD2000 tone wheels. So on this left page, the drawbar page, you will see we have our 9 tone wheel drawbars. We have percussion control at the top, our rotary control, and color control. So let's go ahead and load the settings. I will shift the piano over here to show, and you will see this does in fact follow along with our settings here, and we get the appropriate response and also the color response, as you see with the tone wheel 1 works that way. On the right hand side we have approximately 230 classic tone wheel settings loaded, arranged in groups. You will see at the top we can select which zone, 1 through 4. We select our bass tone up here, tone wheel 1, rotary 1, tone wheel 1, rotary 2. And if you have EXP5 loaded, you get the tone wheel 2 patches. Let's select the organ on the piano, and you have the different styles, ballad, blues, artists, classic songs, gospel, reggae settings. The middle row is the Hammond upper and lower traditional settings, the Hammond theater upper and lower, Mr. Schnellbecker's upper and lower settings, which he edited, maybe more religious, the old Hammond flutes, diapasons, reeds, strings layouts. And for completeness, we have the RD2000, the 10 drawbar settings you get, and then the EXP5 drawbar settings as well. If you're an old style keyboardist and you like the inverse color keypads, we have that layout as well. And unlike the previous page, which is fixed presets, these you can adjust and store as you want. But it sort of works the way you'd expect. You can recall the patch just by hitting the key. And if you want to, you can adjust it. Let's make some adjustments to this patch, and we want to store it. You hit the store button. You could enter the new name and store it that way. I'm going to cancel out of that since I don't want to save that. And of course, let's put it back to something basic here, blues basic. Of course, a tone wheel wouldn't be complete without rotary. So we have the controls for the rotary here, and this introduces one more new thing. We have at the top of all the tremolo and mod FX, we have a display that shows you which one's loaded. So if we hit the load setting, it shows us in fact rotary 1 is loaded. I want to go to rotary 2 though. So in this case, in the tremolo and mod FX, the label is also a select button. So if I hit my rotary 2 button, load it, now it shows rotary 2 is loaded, and I can make the changes as I want here. Adjust the woofer slow speed, turn amp sim on as I want that way. And we continue on with the rest of the tremolo and amp sim settings here. Normal, A piano, E piano. Guitar is interesting. You can have some choices here. Let's once again choose that setting, load it as it brings it in. So maybe a little much for my taste. Quiet that preamp down a little bit. And then on through the MKS-20. And we continue the same thing. There are 62 different mod FX settings in the RD2000. I've programmed 20 of them so far. So we'll take a look at some of those. And they work the same way. If you hit load, you see what's loaded. So we see a T-Scream is in zone 1, and we could go to, well, let's see what's in zone 2. So zone 2 has an equalizer. Let's go back to the index, and we can jump straight to the equalizer page, and we have our settings there. It shows that it's not on, but we enable it there, and we can make our changes as desired. As I said, I tried to focus on the most common and also the most interesting, or the most complicated. Like the step filter has 16 different steps to enter, and that's hard to do on the small screen. Slicer the same way. Let's go back to Cry Walks. I sort of like, that's sort of a fun one. Make sure I'm on zone 1. We have an interesting patch loaded strings. So we'll apply the effect, load it to see what it is, make sure the effect's on. And what I have here is assign the wah pedal to the EXT pedal. So normally you'd control the wah by the knob there, but let's press this. And now we can hear we're controlling the wah function by the EXT pedal. So let's go back. At this point, we walked through most of the controls you have here. Everything that we haven't covered works the same way. As I mentioned, there are 2 other RD2000 layouts if you're interested. We have a piano editor that lets you dig into the Supernatural and vPiano settings in great detail. As I mentioned earlier, the rhythms layout that lets you play around with the RD2000 rhythms section. So that's the overview of the RD2000 Manager layout for MDP2. I guess I should mention 2 things. All the changes that RD2000 Manager does are just to temporary memory in your RD2000. Nothing permanent is affected until you either, if you like the changes you made, write them to a program, register them to a scene, or for a few of the system settings, save those back to your system settings. The other thing is this is probably not something you're taking to a live performance. This is something you're using to get your programs and scenes set up right, really dig into those settings, and you're back to using the RD2000 controls when you're performing live.